Have you ever had a friend who suddenly disappears when you need them most? One moment you're laughing together, making plans, feeling connected, and the next, they vanish without a word. They don't answer your calls. They cancel plans at the last second, or they go completely silent for days, sometimes weeks. And you're left wondering, did I do something wrong? Do they even care about me? Or have I just been replaced? Here's the scary part. Research shows that avoidant attachment patterns, where someone pulls away when things feel too close, don't just happen in romantic relationships. They happen in friendships too. And this silent pattern can quietly destroy some of the most important connections in our lives, leaving us confused, hurt, and often blaming ourselves. And maybe you know this pain all too well. You've poured your heart into a friendship, only to feel invisible when you needed support the most. Maybe you've asked yourself late at night, why does my friend push me away whenever I try to get closer? Or am I expecting too much by just wanting them to show up? I know how heavy that can feel, and you're not alone in this. Many people, especially as we get older, find themselves stuck in friendships that feel one-sided, unpredictable, and exhausting. My name is Tom Harris, and in today's video, we're going to explore exactly why this happens in friendships, and more importantly, how you can handle it without losing yourself. But before we get there, let's first meet Alex, Taylor, and Casey. Asterisk, let me introduce you to three friends whose story might sound very familiar. Alex, Taylor, and Casey. Now, Alex is what psychologists call dismissive. Alex loves independence, values space, and often feels uncomfortable when friendships demand too much closeness. So when things start to feel heavy, when a friend is upset, or when someone needs too much from them, Alex tends to pull away. They might cancel plans, delay replying to messages, or even go completely silent for a while. On the other side, we have Taylor. Taylor has what's known as an anxious attachment style. Taylor cares deeply about friendships and craves reassurance. So when Alex suddenly pulls away, Taylor doesn't just see it as space. Taylor interprets it as rejection. They start overthinking, worrying, and trying even harder to reach out. Are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Why won't you talk to me? The harder Taylor pushes, the more Alex withdraws. And then comes Casey. Casey is the friend who has a secure attachment style. Casey values connection, but also respects boundaries. Instead of panicking or pulling away, Casey communicates clearly, "Hey Alex, I'd love to see you this week, but if you're not up for it, that's okay too. Just let me know." Casey's calm and balanced approach often helps reduce the tension between Alex and Taylor. But here's the thing, most of us don't have a Casey in every friendship. In real life, we often find ourselves stuck in the exhausting push-and-pull between anxious and avoidant patterns. And if you've ever wondered why your friendships sometimes feel like an emotional roller coaster, well, now you're starting to see the hidden dynamic at play. Asterisk, here's where things start to feel like an emotional merry-go-round, and not the fun kind. Let's go back to Alex and Taylor for a moment. Taylor feels Alex pulling away, and immediately their anxious brain starts sounding the alarm. Oh no, I'm losing my friend. I must have done something wrong. So, Taylor doubles down. More texts, more calls, more questions like, "Are we okay? Did I upset you?" Now imagine how Alex feels on the other side. For Alex, those messages don't feel like care. They feel like pressure. Their inner voice says, "This is too much. I need space." So, they retreat further. Maybe they leave Taylor's messages on read. Maybe they cancel plans with a vague excuse. Or maybe they disappear for a week. And now Taylor, feeling ignored, pushes even harder. They might write long emotional messages or try to surprise Alex with an unplanned visit. And what happens next? You guessed it, Alex pulls away again. The cycle repeats. Pressure leads to withdrawal. Withdrawal creates more pressure. And suddenly, what was once a friendship filled with laughter starts to feel like a constant game of tug-of-war. If you've ever been caught in this loop, you know how draining it is. It feels like you're either chasing or running, never standing still long enough to just enjoy being friends. And the saddest part, both people usually care about each other deeply. It's not about not valuing the friendship. It's about two different attachment styles clashing in a way that creates confusion, hurt, and frustration. So why does Alex act this way in the first place? Why does closeness feel so threatening to someone with an avoidant attachment? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. Asterisk, so let's dig deeper into Alex's side of the story. Why does someone with an avoidant style behave like this? At first glance, it might seem selfish, cold, or even uncaring. But the truth is far more complicated and, actually, a lot more human. Most avoidant patterns don't start in adulthood. They begin in childhood. Imagine a little kid who learns early on that when they cry, no one comes. Or maybe when they express feelings, they get told, "Stop being dramatic," or "Handle it yourself." Over time, that child's brain adapts. They stop relying on others for comfort because, deep down, they believe it won't be there. Independence becomes their safety blanket. Fast forward to adulthood, and you have someone like Alex. So when Taylor, the anxious friend, gets upset and pushes for closeness, Alex's system doesn't see it as love. It sees it as danger, too much demand, too much risk of disappointment. Pulling away isn't about not caring. It's a coping mechanism that says, if I don't rely on you, I can't be let down. But here's the catch: avoidant friends often do care, sometimes deeply. They might think about you, miss you, even want to reach out. But the fear of being overwhelmed or judged for their needs, so they cancel plans, they ghost for a while, they crack jokes instead of opening up. It's not because your friendship doesn't matter. It's because intimacy feels like walking on thin ice, and this can be especially tough in later life. Many older adults with avoidant styles have decades of practice keeping people at arm's length. Changing that habit feels almost impossible. But here's a comforting truth: avoidant attachment isn't fixed forever. With awareness, compassion, and sometimes professional help, avoidants can slowly learn that closeness doesn't have to mean danger. Now, before we talk about healthy approaches, there's another piece of the puzzle we need to clear up: the common misunderstandings people have about avoidant friends. And trust me, this part is eye-opening. Asterisk, here's something really important to clear up, because it causes so much unnecessary pain in friendships. When someone like Alex withdraws, cancels plans, or goes quiet, it's very easy to jump to the conclusion, they just don't care about me. Or even harsher, they must lack empathy. But in most cases, that's simply not true. Avoidant friends usually feel emotions just as strongly as anyone else. They might care about you deeply, but their way of showing it looks different. Instead of checking in every day, they might show love by quietly fixing something for you, or showing up in practical ways when it really counts. The problem is, their silence often gets misread as disinterest. Now, here's a key distinction. A lack of empathy is something we often associate with certain personality disorders. Avoidant attachment, on the other hand, isn't about being heartless. It's about being protective. They're guarding themselves from feeling too exposed, too dependent, or too vulnerable, of course. That doesn't mean their behavior doesn't hurt. It does. But labeling them as cold or uncaring usually misses the truth. What you're seeing isn't a lack of feeling it, a survival strategy. So, instead of asking, why don't they care? A better question is, what are they protecting themselves from? That shift in perspective can change how you approach the friendship. But even with this understanding, the challenges of being close to an avoidant friend are very real. And that's what we're about to unpack next. Asterisk. Now let's be honest, here being close friends with someone who has an avoidant attachment style can feel like trying to hug a cactus. You want closeness, but every time you reach out, you risk getting pricked. One of the biggest challenges is accountability. Avoidant friends often see it as pressure. If you say, "Hey, you didn't show up when I needed you," they might feel attacked, even if you're just sharing your feelings. To them, accountability can sound like demands, and demands trigger that old instinct to pull away. Another challenge is the disappearing act. Avoidant friends may vanish during moments of emotional need, not because they don't care, but because they genuinely don't know how to show up without feeling swallowed. For you, it feels like abandonment. For them, it feels like survival. And then there's miscommunication. While you might crave reassurance through words, "I'm here for you. I care about you," your avoidant friend might think, "But I just fixed your car last week. Doesn't that show I care?" They often lean on actions instead of words, and if you're not tuned into that, you'll miss it. Let's not forget humor. Many avoidant people use jokes to deflect serious conversations. Picture Alex cracking a silly line right when Taylor is pouring their heart out. It's frustrating, but it's also their way of keeping things from getting too heavy. All of this can leave you feeling drained, questioning yourself, and wondering if the friendship is worth it. But here's the hopeful twist. There are healthy approaches that can make these friendships not only manageable but surprisingly meaningful. How do you actually handle a friendship with someone like Alex without losing your mind or your heart? The good news is, it is possible. But it requires a balance of compassion and boundaries. Think of it like dancing. You need to know when to step forward and when to step back. First, communication is everything. But here's the trick: don't frame your needs as demands. Instead of saying, "You never call me back and it hurts my feelings," you might say, "I really value hearing from you. Could we both agree to check in at least once a week?" Notice the difference. It's no longer an attack, it's an agreement. Avoidant friends respond better when they feel like equals, not like they're being scolded. Second, boundaries are not just important, they're life-saving. If Alex disappears for weeks, you have the right to say, "I care about our friendship, but I also need consistency. If you can't give that right now, I understand, but I also need to protect my own well-being." Boundaries aren't punishments. They're the guardrails that keep you safe emotionally. Third, keep compassion in your pocket. Remember that avoidant friends aren't trying to hurt you. Their distance is a coping strategy, not a sign of dislike. Sometimes, just reminding yourself this is about their fears, not my worth, can take a huge weight off your shoulders. Fourth, lighten the load with humor when possible. If your avoidant friend cracks a joke during a serious talk, instead of snapping, you might laugh and then gently bring the conversation back. A little patience goes a long way here. Finally, know your limits. Not every friendship is meant to be lifelong. If the cycle of withdrawal and pressure keeps draining you, it's okay to let go. Ending a friendship isn't a failure. It's a form of self-care handled with the right mix of clarity and kindness. Friendships with avoidant people can become surprisingly stable over time, and sometimes they just need someone to show them that closeness doesn't have to mean losing themselves. Asterisk. Now, let's bring Casey back into the picture. Remember, Casey is the securely attached friend, the one who balances connection with boundaries. Casey doesn't panic when Alex goes quiet, and they don't pressure Alex either. Instead, Casey communicates in a calm and respectful way. For example, instead of flooding Alex with messages, Casey might say, "Hey, Alex, I'd love to hang out this weekend. If you're not up for it, no worries, just let me know." Simple, clear, and pressure-free. Casey makes their needs known but leaves space for Alex to respond without feeling cornered. This approach works because it models healthy friendship. It says, "I value our connection, but I also respect your limits." Over time, avoidant friends like Alex may begin to feel safer, realizing that closeness doesn't always mean losing independence. And here's something powerful. Being around secure people can actually help shift avoidant patterns. It doesn't fix everything, but it plants seeds of trust. If you've ever had a Casey in your life, you know how comforting it feels to be accepted without pressure and supported without judgment. So what happens when avoidant friends start taking small steps toward growth? That's where therapy and self-awareness come in. Asterisk, here's the hopeful part of the story. Avoidant attachment isn't a life sentence. It's a pattern, and patterns can change. For someone like Alex, therapy can be a game changer. In therapy, avoidant individuals begin to see that their coping style, while once protective, may now be limiting the very connections they secretly want. It's not about turning them into someone they're not. It's about helping them recognize that closeness doesn't have to mean being smothered. A good therapist might encourage small, manageable steps, like replying to a message instead of disappearing, or staying present in a conversation a little longer before shutting down. These micro changes add up over time. Self-awareness also plays a huge role. When avoidants start noticing their own patterns, "I'm pulling away right now because I feel pressured," they can choose a different response. It doesn't happen overnight, but with consistency. Progress is possible. And here's something important for you as a friend to remember. You can support them, but you can't do the work for them. Their growth is their responsibility. Your responsibility is protecting your emotional health while staying compassionate. So, what should you, as a friend, actually take away from all of this? Let's bring it all together with some key lessons. Asterisk. So let's tie this all together. Friendships with avoidant people can be confusing, frustrating, and at times even heartbreaking. But they don't always mean your friend doesn't care. More often, it means they're wrestling with old fears of closeness that started long before you ever met. The first key takeaway is clarity. Communicate your needs directly and respectfully. Don't hint, don't play guessing games. Say what you mean in a calm way. The second is boundaries. Protect your own emotional health. If the friendship is draining you, it's okay to step back. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. Third, don't mistake avoidant distance for lack of empathy. Most avoidant friends do care, even if they struggle to show it. Recognizing the difference can save you from a lot of unnecessary self-blame. Fourth, compassion matters. Understand that their withdrawal is a coping mechanism, not a rejection of you as a person. That said, compassion doesn't mean tolerating pain endlessly. And finally, remember this. It's okay to walk away if a friendship consistently harms your well-being. You deserve relationships that nurture you, not drain you. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever had a friend who pulled away when you needed them most? And how did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories because the more we talk about this, the less alone we all feel. I'm Tom Harris, and if this video helped you, don't forget to subscribe for more conversations on emotional intelligence, personal growth, and healthier relationships. Until next time, take care of yourself, you deserve it.